Hey, Sooner football fans. This is your Sooner Football Fans podcast. Today, all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, we have the Angry Sooner on with us. It's been 1 year since Bob Stoops resigned and Lincoln Riley took over. Here are our thoughts on Lincoln's first year, and with Kyler Murray signing with the A's with an agreement to play 1 year of football, is there a quarterback competition at the University of Oklahoma? Sooner football fans is not associated with the University of Oklahoma, but we do have eligibility left. Boomer. Hey, Sooner football fans. You got Terry and Rob here. Boomer Rob.
Boomer Terry.
And on today's podcast, all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, I like to call him, the defender of Sooner Nation on Twitter, maybe the Thor of Sooner Nation on Twitter. We've got the Angry Sooner on with us. Boomer Angry.
Sooner, Terry and Rob, how you guys doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Doing well.
So what's going on out in Phoenix tonight? I know last week we both kind of screwed up, forgot about time zones, and
is it hot out there? I'm just curious.
We melt. If I walk outside for about 10 minutes, there's some melting that's going on, and you know what? I don't know what time zones are until I talk to you guys. So
yeah, when you sent me that message, I was like, oh crap, I didn't even think about. It's I guess 6 o'clock there, isn't it, right now? So or 6:30ish.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it doesn't help that my wife pretty much organizes my life, and I failed to tell her about this. So, there were some other things that happened to pop up, and I was pretty bummed that we didn't get to do it. But I'm glad to be here today. You guys do an awesome job, and I'm excited to be on.
All right. Well, go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say we enjoy most of your tweets. They're pretty hilarious.
Don't lie.
No.
Don't lie.
It's most of them are pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
And like I said, the defender of Sooner Nation on Twitter. I mean, you're the first one. If anybody talks smack, and even we as fans can get on to each other. Sometimes you even stand up when when the family is fighting. So I think that's pretty cool, and especially when some idiot from Texas mouths off, and you're the first one to step up. So
we should clear the air a little bit. My intention is only to be me when I'm on there, and that's just kind of who I am. My life has always been revolved around people that are close to me, and I've become close with a lot of people on Sooner Twitter, more so than anybody else. Maybe, getting on a social media platform and, these are cool people. They're more than that to me, and there's quite a few of them. So, I am very defensive, and I can get a little hot sometimes, but my intentions aren't to be, anybody's police of the Sooner Nation or anything like that. But I do appreciate you guys saying the kind words, and I'm just trying my best to be a nice guy, even though that doesn't happen all the time.
So, before we get started anything, we're going to do a little kind of a little public service announcement. So everybody bear with me. We're not pros. We're just fans. So when we have something like this to do, it kind of I try to write it down and do it well. But we are helping a family out here in Norman, Oklahoma, who lost their 4-year-old boy. His name was Kyler Bonham. He was 4 years old, and he passed away last month from a rare cancer that affects children. I don't know what cancer it is. I do know what cancer it is, but I cannot pronounce it. So I believe it's ERMS. But to help them out, they are good friends with another close friend of ours. We've got with Buffalo Wild Wings here in Norman on June 21st from 5 to 9 p.m. If you go in there, we are shooting out on Twitter and on Facebook certificates, mobile certificates. If you show that mobile certificate when you check out, 10% of every ticket that shows that certificate 10% of that ticket will go to that family. And they're needing help with the cost of the remaining costs of funeral expense. So,
and they desperately need a guy. So if you can come out on that night, it'd be great.
Yeah, and it's the people here at Buffalo Wild Wings are great. They stepped up. They're going to let them do quite a few things. We may have they got a new horseshoe pit out there. They may have a horseshoe tournament. They may have some basketball. They got a basketball goal they just set up. They may have like a free shot contest and stuff like that. But the main thing is this family really needs it. I couldn't imagine losing a 4-year-old or any of my kids, and then having to go through, when you sit down for the expenses, going, I don't have enough money left. So it's every little bit counts. So watch for it on Twitter. Go ahead.
Let me just say, Rob, Terry, thank you for that, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. If anybody's followed me on Twitter for a while, I've lost a child, and it's a little bit different situation, but the pain is astronomical. And I can tell you from experience that people like yourself that do something like this when they do not have to, when you're not asked to do it, it goes a long, long way in helping you recover and make it through that. So thank you. Obviously, I won't be able to show up, but as we spoke about a little bit before the podcast, if you can get me and probably a lot of the other people on Twitter that may not be able to make it, some type of donation link where we can help out in our own way, I'm sure that that'll get a lot of support, and we can help that family make it through a very difficult time.
Well, we appreciate that, and my wife is going to be working with them closer, and so I'll kick this information back to her, and she'll probably try to get some type of GoFundMe, small GoFundMe. There may be one out there, but I don't know that. I know that they'd used one before, and I guess GoFundMe takes a little bit of time to process once it's finished. So we may try to figure out some other way of doing something.
You know what? Just let me just say this. I'm proud to be a Sooner fan because the college is great and the athletics are great, but it's because Sooner fans pull together like this that makes me really proud to be a Sooner.
Yeah. And
there's nothing else like it, man. There's nothing else like it.
I know it was the bearded Sooner. He the one whose house just burnt up in Tulsa.
Yeah.
And I know that you could see it on Twitter yourself, and everybody pushed it out there. And I know that he appreciated everything that I don't know that you see that anywhere else. It's just
not much.
It's
something special, man. It's like I've never been able to pinpoint it if it's an Oklahoman thing, because the people of Oklahoma are just incredible, hardworking, generous people. But it seems to gravitate towards and re-replicate itself in Sooner fan. In that fan base, and it's unlike anything else, man. I've said it multiple times on Twitter, and I don't know how I can ever make anybody understand, but Sooner fans on Twitter got me through the darkest times in my life, and that's I'm being dead serious with that, and it's just an incredible family, man. It's an amazing thing to be a part of.
Yeah, and you're right. It's a great thing to be a part of. So. But let's get on to a little bit of sports talk. First off, before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, or however much you want to share. You're in Phoenix. Were you originally from Oklahoma? Got out there and stayed?
I was born in Lindsay. My family lived in Chickasha, but I was born in Lindsay Hospital. I spent a lot of my time in my younger youth in Newcastle. And then actually jumping back and forth between Newcastle and Atoka Lane, to be more specific. I've got a lot of family still there. I got a lot of family in the Moore area, Newcastle area still as well. When I was 15, I moved to Phoenix with my father, and I went to high school out here and ended up finishing that, and then kind of just ran around after that, and then have just gravitated back to Phoenix. I've left 3 times and I've came back 3 times. There's something about the zero humidity and the mountains and the beautiful winters that keep me coming back. But yeah, I was born and raised in Oklahoma up until 15. I became a Sooner fan in middle school. I remember I was a Barry Sanders idol, so I thought I was an Oklahoma State fan for a little while.
Oof.
And I remember, yeah, I know, disgusting, right? But I remember sitting in a class with a buddy, and he was a big Sooner fan, and on the other side of me was an Oklahoma State fan, and I don't remember what year it was, maybe 95, 96. And it's funny how you look back in retrospect and you like have these little situations, and then you can apply them still today. So the funny thing about the story is they were fighting over why I should be a fan of each one. Like, they're
They
telling me
were
why I
recruiting
should be
it.
a Sooner fan. They were. And the Oklahoma State fan, I kid you not, his spill for me was that they have better colors, they have better uniforms, and they have a cooler mascot. And I remember to this day, my buddy, his name's Randall, he goes, I just like to win. And that was it. And that was it.
There you go.
And I remember to that day, I was like, you know what? I think I might try this Sooner thing out. And I told my dad, and he talked to one of his buddies and got us tickets to. It was '97 because he got us tickets to Baylor homecoming, and that was my first Oklahoma Sooner game, and unfortunately, it's actually been my last one in the stadium. But I watched us go into double overtime with Baylor in 1997, and we won that game, but just barely.
Yeah. Oh, that's. Hey,
But
you
ever
gotta
since then,
start.
I was hooked.
But
Yeah.
I love that is
Demar-
the Oklahoma State fan says, we got a cool mascot and cool colors and uniforms, and the Sooner fan goes, we win. So
Yeah.
I mean, basically, yeah. Well, there you go.
So relevant, right? So relevant.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to get into, and I know it's off season, so we end up beating a dead horse a lot of times with stuff. But I said on our last podcast that if Kyler Murray ended up being staying and passing up, the Major League Baseball and staying, that I would be his number one fan and I would be his flag carrier and everything else. Well, I got to say this much, okay? Not only am I now his number one fan, and I'm going to be, the flag carrier for Kyler Murray, but for a guy to be able to get paid $5 million and get to play football with an agreement to get to play football, that's ingenious. Okay. So
It's an incredible situation.
Yeah. I would have never thought that any Major League Baseball team would let any signee do that. But they did it. Kudos to him. I think the one hilarious, we were talking about it last night at Buffalo Wild Wings. Is there a quarterback controversy right now, Rob, do you think?
I don't think there is, quite honestly.
What about you, Angad? Pretty much we know who's going to be the starter now, don't we?
I think so. There are definitely some people out there on the other side of the spectrum that are making a case, and the argument seems to be, well, Kyler's getting paid now, so he's going to tone it back, and if it's fourth down and 5, and he can get that extra yard, but he's going to get hit hard, he's just going to step out of bounds. And then, I don't think that way, but that seems to be the general consensus of why people would promote, say, an Austin Kendall, or myself, my boy down in Waco, Mordecai.
Yeah.
I think that guy's a stud. But I think it's Kyler, man.
Yeah.
I don't see how it's not.
Yeah, and I even, after all this happened, I'm doing my best Blinken Riley here. Okay, real quick. He's been on a couple of times.
That's a hard impression to do. He's a genius.
It's first off, this is an attempt. It's not even going to be close. I have no comparison to it other than looking at. I thought, who is the greatest quarterback? What Sooner has the greatest stats as a starter? Okay, and I didn't even research it. I just went to one game, and it's Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray was the starter, okay, against West Virginia.
Oh
Okay?
yeah.
He averaged 26.6 yards per carry, 100% completion rating, 26 yards per pass, and 50% touchdown ratio with his passes. So, half of his passes were touchdowns. They were 26 yards per pass. He had 26 yards per carry rushing. That's the greatest stat of any OU starter ever. He only played, let's face it, he only played like 10 plays, but he started the game. So you got to give it to him.
He is an incredible athlete, and my perspective on this has always been since Baker left, and we knew that Baker was leaving, and we had to start thinking about what was coming next. I think Kyler can make this offense better. He's not going to be Baker, anybody who thinks that is, you're not thinking it through. But what I think Kyler can bring to the table, if he learned anything from Baker, is that if he can use his skill set to escape pressure and throw,
Right.
I think he's going to be very dangerous. I think he could be a Heisman contender, and I think this team could be better offensively than it was a year ago. My worry is that his speed will put him in the category of a lot of other quarterbacks with that kind of speed that have played this game, and he will escape to run.
Right.
And the reason that causes me concern is his smaller frame. I think that could get him hurt. I think he could miss some big plays. He may get a first down out of it, but we could miss a touchdown out of it, so forth. So that's what I think. If he can control that, and if he sat behind Baker for 2 years, so I think if he learned anything from Baker, keep your eyes down the field, get out of the pocket, that man is going to be dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's got an arm, and he's got an accurate arm. I mean, but
cannon.
And the thing, Baker's last year, okay, in my opinion, obviously he won the Heisman Trophy. All the things he did in his last year, but the reason why he did that was Lincoln pulled his reins back, let him know that the mistakes he made his junior year against Ohio State, for instance, and I can't think of our other loss. Maybe was it Texas, Rob, that we lost to that year too?
Not 16. We lost to Texas in 15.
Yeah. Well, we
lost to Houston last year.
Right. Yeah, Houston and Ohio State. His problems was he was trying to win the game by himself. He was playing hero ball. And even, Stoops said it. Lincoln said it. It's, hey, he needs to understand, he's an electric player, but there's times that you're not going to be able to do that. And when he realized that and toned himself down, that's when he became a better quarterback, in my opinion.
I just want to go on the record here.
I agree.
We don't talk about losses. All right.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, moving on.
Sir, yes, sir.
But seriously, that's when and that's what you saw last year was, some people disagree with it. The more composed quarterback, a more composed Baker, who understood what his job was to let the play run itself out before he bailed, and when I say bail, when you take off running, if Kyler can do that from the start, and if that's what he learned from Baker, then he's going to be amazing.
Well, I think he's going to have every opportunity. I think the O-line is going to be at least as good as it was last year, which was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be better.
And I think we got receivers are better. I think he's going to have the opportunity to really show what he can do.
Yeah. Did you see the picture of CeeDee Lamb and Hollywood on Twitter yesterday? Good
Absolute
stuff. And you got to remember, CeeDee Lamb last year was the size of a pencil. Man, he was skinny, and that dude,
both of them really.
Yeah.
I mean, Marquise came in, weighing 125, soaking wet. The guy, these kids look, and this has been my perspective at least up until now. And I am definitely a homer. I am definitely biased. I somehow figure out a way to make a prediction that we're going to win the national championship every single year. Part of that's because I believe it, and part of that's because I don't want to accept anything else and be logical or realistic. But I've just seen, I think, with the staff changes, and I have a lot of respect for who we've had on staff, but it just feels different. The players working feels different. You watch these videos that are getting released on Twitter of Sermon and Lamb and Marquise Brown training with Antonio Brown and going to these camps in summer when they have time off. You if you just scroll down Texas's timeline, you see them at the lake. Yeah. You see them out in Austin. You scroll down our timeline, and we're training with professionals.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there's a different work ethic right now than we've had in a while, and that could be really, really, really dangerous for the rest of college football.
And to your point, Marquise Brown, Hollywood over spring break, I think almost every day on Twitter posted a workout. while everybody else is and one of them was like, when everybody else is partying, I'm putting the work in, and he's out there running cones and stuff, and that's saying a lot for 20, 21-year-old kid. I'm gonna stay home and work instead of go party. So
a lot of these kids tasted it. They tasted it at the Rose Bowl. They were so close, and they're young freshmen. I mean, we had a lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomore playing. To be able to get that close, I think they're really, really hungry, and it could be a really good thing for us.
Yeah. So you brought up the staff change, so let's jump into that a little bit. A year ago, Wednesday or Thursday? It was Wednesday, wasn't it, Rob? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think Wednesday.
Yeah,
around there. This week.
Let's reminisce about this time last year. It's kind of like I hate to put it like this. People say you remember where you were at when Elvis died, and you remember where you're at when JFK and all this stuff. I remember where I was at when my phone went off and it was an alert, and then everybody in my office about had a heart attack. When the announcement came that in the press conference that Bob Stoops was going to announce his retirement. Okay, so it's been a year. What were you doing when you got the news, and what was your reaction?
I think I was working. Even if I wasn't, that would probably be a good guess. I remember specifically just having a sinking feeling. Like, I thought it was a joke, really. Like, I thought it was just kind of like Bob Stoops is going to retire. It's off season. We need something to talk about. Ha 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 ha. And then, when it came true, I just remember having just a sinking feeling. It's just like it's crazy to attach those type of feelings towards college football, but as Sooner fans, I know you guys are avid fans, and I know there's a ton of them out there that you just understand, like, there's just this connection to the team that you have in this fan base that it's like, okay, like, we didn't never think this day was going to come. We thought Bob was going to, was going to be here until he was 70. What now? And, we started speculating and figuring it all out, and then they announced that it's Lincoln, and there was just so many mixed emotions of uncertainty and confidence in the university, and, it was just a crazy day, I remember, emotionally.
Yeah. Rob,
I don't remember I don't remember that kind of stuff where I was at when certain things happened. Generally, I don't, including this one. But what I would like to point out is that back then it didn't seem like this was a great idea. But a year removed from it now, we can look back and see the mastery of I don't know who was it, Joe or was it Bob, of what they did and how they issued that whole thing, and Lincoln coming in at the time he came in. I mean, it couldn't have been planned out any better. It was just magnificent.
Yeah, it was like a surgical strike. Yeah. I mean, and we've talked about it before, but it's almost like they knew, and I personally think it was Bob. Bob knew, if I do it during this period of time, everything's going to stay intact, because coaches can't leave in July. June and July. There's nobody hiring. Every position
could, but they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. So it was.
Well, let's be honest. He's gone. If that doesn't happen, Lincoln's gone.
Yeah,
after
absolutely.
Another year.
Right. And I think he had molded him to be his replacement. I think he was trying to mold Josh Heupel. I always thought that was going to be the next, but then Josh just couldn't get it rolling. But it was pretty obvious, I think, to all of us that Lincoln was kind of the next man up if we could keep him. Yeah, but nobody, I think, expected Bob to retire when he did.
I wish I could give Bob his national championships so that he could be considered the greatest coach of all time. Yeah. Because to me, obviously with bias, he is, and this is why. This decision is why Bob is the greatest of all time to me, because it's his class. Mm-hmm. He is such a selfless man, and he became a Sooner. He represented Sooner Nation in his 18 years here in such a good way. My personal opinion is I think the Mixon incident took a lot out of him. And I think he started realizing that it was very difficult for him to communicate and connect with these young men. And I think that played a lot into the decision. But nonetheless, to be able to be the coach that you are, widely considered one of the best coaches in college football, will be a top, at least top 15 of all time.
Yeah.
And you're going to be selfless enough to say, you know what, this 33-year-old or 32-year-old or 34 or whatever Lincoln it was when he got hired, it's his turn.
Yeah. And
he's never proved anything, but it's his turn.
And it wasn't just because of his respect for Lincoln; it was because of his respect for the university. I think, because he left it. I mean, literally. I mean, they built this giant palace at the redid the Switzer Center, and Bob was fixing to move into the biggest office in the history of of college football in this giant palace, and he went, "Nope, here you go."
It truly is a palace.
I mean, Lincoln steps right in, and no staff left. Everything stayed intact, and the only person we've still left off this
Schmitty.
is Schmitty. That's the only one that's left.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Most of the time, coaches do not leave the University of Oklahoma unless they're taking head coaching jobs.
Right.
I mean, it's not Oklahoma is not a stepping stone.
Right. And now, they worked with Lincoln through the season. They got a taste of the success. They look at the recruiting that is happening at this university. Who would leave it? I mean, now, if I don't care if you're the, third assistant to the water boy, you're going to stick around to be a part of what's going on.
Well, look at Mike. Mike's riding this out as far as he can.
Yeah. I mean,
he's hanging on for dear life. But, I think my opinion also is I think that fans are as vocal as they've ever been because of technology.
Right.
And these coaches hear the things that we are saying. And the year before that, he went 8-5. And I remember specifically on Twitter that there was a 50-50 split in it's time to get rid of Bob.
Right.
Conference championships aren't enough. Losing to people we shouldn't lose to is unacceptable.
Right.
I appreciate him for what he did, but it's time to get rid of him. And then there's the other side that, just supports Bob unconditionally, which is my side. But I think he, as you said, is a university man, and I think he really kind of believes that that's true. I think he believed that it was true that conference championships aren't enough at the University of Oklahoma,
mm-hmm.
and that the way that the college football landscape is changing, the way to take the next step is to have some new life.
Right.
And I think that's what he did.
Well, and Lincoln he's young. It's not so much he's young, but he's, like you brought it up, tech. The tech. We're in a tech world now, and we've talked about it a couple times on the podcast. The eyeballs from Lincoln Riley are not for the players. He does that for the fans, because what happens when a set of
fans,
and when a set of eyeballs come out, we all get little woodies and go, oh my god, who's coming?
You can say that.
But everybody is oh my god, who is it? And then you got the experts like Brandon, the football brainiacs, and Sooner 24/7. All those things start popping out. Hey, it's going to be this person, and all of us get excited in freaking March.
Scoop.
Yeah, yeah, Scoop. I mean, all of them start. So we're all rattling like we're getting ready to play Texas or Notre Dame in March and April.
Hanging on every tweet.
Yeah.
No, the man is an absolute genius.
Yeah, and Bob, and this is no disrespect, Bob, he was one of those, that he didn't get the technology. I still don't get the technology.
He's more old school.
Yeah. It's...
Well, he grew up in a time where everything was under wraps.
Yeah.
You didn't have to publicly impress these kids. You had to walk in and impress them and their family.
Yeah.
Now these kids want the attention.
Yeah, and now
you
you
have to have it.
You got these recruiting services that are going out making videos for these kids. Helping them put together, amazing videos. And I don't know, I don't think that Bob. It's not that he didn't know how to deal with that. Hold on, just a second.
Absolutely.
Shut the door. Shut the door. Sorry, my grandkids are here, and they just came rattling on the door and stuck it. I think
that's what they're good for.
I think they wanted ice cream. I don't know, but for some reason they came to us. So, but no, like I was saying though, it's Bob. He just, you could tell he wasn't comfortable with it when people would bring it up. Comfortable with talking about it that way. It was just a different way of dealing with it.
He hated it.
Yeah, he hated the fact that
absolutely hated it.
Yeah. And like Rob said, he was old school. He was, we don't need to talk about it. We don't need all that stuff.
One thing's for sure, Lincoln is on board.
Oh, yeah. And you could see that he kind of turned that over to Lincoln, kind of, hey, do what you want on Twitter and stuff. And you saw before even Bob was gone, you saw the pickup in it, the pickup in the recruiting.
Look at the offensive side of the ball as soon as Lincoln stepped on. The defensive side didn't follow like that. As soon as Riley stepped on staff, our offensive recruiting skyrocketed.
Right.
I mean, the man's a mastermind. But if you just look back in just 10 years and look at the landscape of how recruiting has changed, it's unbelievable because 10 years ago there were 25 fans that knew anything that was going on with recruiting.
Right.
Kids would commit and nobody would know. Kids would decommit and nobody would know.
And nobody cared.
Now
really,
it's arguably exactly. And now arguably it's one of the biggest things on Twitter. Period.
Yeah, and
the kid decommits.
I do want to give it up to you. We want to give it to you too because I agree 100% that the kid that decommitted last week. Sooner fans no fans should ever belittle a kid for changing his mind. Okay, we were talking. You and I and Rob were talking before we came on. We were talking about Caleb being 25 years old. Well, these are 18, 19, 16-year-old kids making huge decisions with their families. It's their choice. Yeah, we think we're the greatest. Well, we are the greatest. But it's the kid's choice. Leave him alone. He goes on. He goes on somewhere else. Fine. Go unfollow him and shut up. Wish him good luck. Say, hey, sorry we lost you.
I've learned that it's a balance. It just as everything else in life is. And the balance is simply this. There's extreme power in interacting with recruits for your university. And you guys see that in the polls that we do. When a kid puts out like, oh, I'm thinking about Oklahoma or Texas A&M, and you scroll down that thread and it's thousands of Oklahoma Sooner fans and gifs saying Boomer Sooner, there's only one. It's an incredible feeling for these kids. The flip side of that is, just like you said, all you have to do is stop for a second and look at yourself at that age and remember that type of decision is arguably maybe one of the most difficult decisions they will ever make in their life because they don't get a pick. If they go to the NFL, they don't get a pick.
Right.
It's a very difficult decision. There's hundreds of thousands of people pulling them in different directions. There are tons of variables that come into play. Just because a kid doesn't choose to play football at the place that you think is best for them does not mean that kid is a bad person. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have value or morals. It doesn't mean he doesn't know what the term commitment means. It just means that when Oklahoma comes knocking at your door, that's exciting.
Right.
We're a big boy. And a lot of times, if you haven't noticed, we are the first ones knocking. Right. Our evaluation team is incredible. We're months and months ahead of everybody else. So a kid's like, oh, man, Oklahoma? How can I say no to Oklahoma? And then at 3, 4, 5 months later, 6 months later, Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, Alabama follow suit. Well, now the decision's a little bit different. So it's just, all you have to do is think logically and rationally about these things, and then there will never be a time where you step on a kid's timeline and bash him for choosing in the wrong place. And the people that do that are very few, far in between. But don't do it, guys.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would say to this is, he decommitted from here and went to Mississippi State. So he, instead of, getting a Big 12 championship ring and playing in the Final Four, he's going down there to get just beat up by Alabama. I mean, Alabama, Georgia, they're just going to get throttled.
And he's from Mississippi. I mean, come on. I mean, any kid that you pull out of a state, is a huge deal for whatever school it is. I mean, pulling a kid out of Oklahoma is amazing for teams to do it, but you got to look at that too. The kid, he may have looked at Oklahoma as like, wow, this is huge, this is big time. And then again, he may turn around and look like, man, Mississippi State's 2 hours from here, and I can go home anytime I want. Mom and dad aren't going to have problems coming to watch me play. Da 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 da. Like you said, there's all things in it, and then it is what it is. I mean,
Rob, you make a really good point in the fact that all of those things are true. But what I always tend to look at is, I look at people that I've met throughout my life, and people are cut from different cloths, right? To be able to leave home and go to a place like Oklahoma where the best of the best are going to be at.
Yeah.
The competition is going to be high. All you got to do is look on our roster, and you'll see 4-star recruits that haven't played a down, right? First half of the season of anybody in the country as far as at that position, and now do the SEC champ.
Yeah.
Are one of the teams like Alabama that could lose late if the circumstances were correct in order to do it. If I had to pick, I would say UCLA scares me.
I'm kind of with you on that one. UCLA
because
Chip
Kelly is going to come back with something to prove. There's a lot of talent. People don't realize that Mora recruited really, really well there. And so Chip Kelly's going to come in and maybe not be his guys, but he could make some problems with UCLA. Iowa State is not a Thursday night game, so that makes me feel better. So I think
we should never ever play a Thursday night game ever again.
We've got to
disgusting. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. And then the other one that I would have to pick is, it's Texas, man. They have talent after talent after talent. If they get some